So at this point I've done 8 books with my good friend Daniel Salmeri, and we only met in 2008. I had a friend in college named Corey who knew Dan from growing up, and I never imagined myself as a picture book illustrator. It was not something that I even considered. I liked picture books. I had quite a few picture books, especially for a grown man. I probably had too many picture books. But I just liked the idea. Since I was in advertising, I was a copywriter. I worked with art directors all the time, and I liked this idea of collaboration. I didn't realize at the time that most picture books are done in isolation, that the illustrator and the writer never meet. The only book I've ever done like that was the very first book, Those Darn Squirrels, because when Corey first introduced Dan and I, Corey and Dan were living in New York, and I was living in Chicago working at Leo Burnett. So I got an email one day saying, you two would get along. And it was a link to my portfolio and Dan's portfolio as well. I had done a lot of comedy sketches and ad campaigns at that time that were up on my website. So Dan and I started talking, and he really wanted to make picture books. When he was a kid, John Sheska came to visit his school and really inspired him. And his mother had always read him illustrated books when he was a kid, and she passed away when he was very young, and it was just something that he studied in school and was passionate about. So when he told me he wanted to write or make a picture book and didn't really have an idea for a story, I saw his artwork and just something clicked. I knew I wanted to work with this guy. He was so amazingly talented. His style was so unique, and I thought, we've got to do something together. I thought back to when I was a kid and remembered how my dad used to feed the birds all the time from that. Squirrels would wind up being the ones that got fed because they would outsmart my father all the time. They would get into the bird feeders no matter what he did. He would hang them from the dog line, and the squirrels would shimmy across Mission Impossible style and steal all the bird feed out of the feeders. But Dan and I, in that first book, we never met. And it was a very traditional process, I guess. We talked throughout, and we did bounce ideas around, but we never met. First time we met, I brought him a taxidermied squirrel, and that was the gift. Didn't go over as well as I thought it would, but I really spent a lot of time choosing which squirrel to give him, and there was like some that were water skiing and smoking pipes and like eating dinner, but instead I chose one that was kind of, you would hang it on its chest, and it was like doing this weird look like that. It looked alive. His girlfriend made him give it to his brother, but anyway, from that moment of the awkward squirrel gift, we've become best friends, and he's one of my closest friends. I really trust his sensibility, and he really trusts mine, and when we work together, it's a very collaborative process. I share the idea for the book before I even start writing it. I'll share it with Dan and see what he thinks, and just whether he'd be interested in doing a book about robots or high fives, for example, which is a book we have coming out in the future. And we talk throughout the process, but it's not the kind of thing where we're looking over each other's shoulders. We both have great respect for the other's expertise, and so we do collaborate quite a bit in person, and then we'll go off into our respective corners and finish the work, and when we come back, surprise the other one with what's been done. So it's a really productive and collaborative process that I think it would benefit a lot of people to be able to have that. It's a luxury that we enjoy. I mean, it's a privilege, and not everybody gets to do that. But I think most books would be better if you could kind of chat with the other person that's creating half of the story.